G'day trendsetters. Well, practice is a massive part of the Enduro World Series. Most athletes only get one practice run each stage, which is a pretty alarming and terrifying scenario for a lot of people. So we're going to go through a few tips and a few tricks along the way to see how these pros tackle a practice stage, how they learn these stages, what they look for, what they focus on, and how they approach a practice day leading into an Enduro World Series race day. So practice days are a big part of an Enduro World Series race day. They add a huge amount of physical load. The riders have to be on their bikes all day. It may not be quite as much riding as a race day, but the mental load, the physical load, pushing back up and down certain sections of the trail to practice and test definitely add up in the lead up to race day. So riders have to be very aware of their physical exertion, and you can burn so much energy in ridiculous areas that are not necessary, but you just get caught up in the practice and the hype of the racing, and it's fun. It's exciting. You're in the mountains, you're on epic trails, you're on some of the best trails you would have ever seen in your life. So it's very hard to meter your effort and manage your physical exertion during a practice day. So pacing is a key part of the physical exertion for practice and for how the riders can read the trail. Some riders like to attack the trail at a very high pace, similar to race pace, so they know the key sections, they know the speed they can carry, they know like how fast obstacles are going to come up towards them. Other riders will take the opposite approach. They go a little bit slower, they can come at it a bit slower, they can read the track and they can see the lines, and they know when race day comes, they'll be able to go full tilt into the exact line that they want and carry their speed through every section and route and hole and rock, all the way down to the bottom. So another thing riders will look at, feel, test during practice is their bike setup. So everyone will come into the stage with a general bike setup that they're happy with and comfortable with. Whether it's suspension, they'll start with their favorite tire. If it's muddy, they'll start with mud tires straight away. But as the practice goes on, as the track develops, they'll be making key notes and little bits and pieces to think, oh, I need a little bit more low speed compression there, or it's a little bit rough, I need to take it off. And these are all things that are going through the riders' minds as they approach this stage, which is quite technical and difficult when you've only get to see the track once. You're going over that one double jump once, and you've got to think about your tires. You might need to go up in tire pressure. You might need to run a tire insert like a cush core. There's a lot of different things to consider. And as the riders are making their way down the stage, these are all things they'll consider throughout the whole day to process the best option come race day. So a big part of practice days, because we've only got one practice run to look at these stages, is our onboard cameras. So taking an onboard camera to the stage allows you to look at a certain section, film it, rewatch it, practice it again, and then memorize that bit. Now, you're not going to memorize an entire track. Tutti Frutti is maybe 12, 13, 15 minutes long. You're not going to memorize every single bit of that trail. But what a helmet cam allows you to focus on is key sections. So you might come across a fire road, and you know after I cross that fire road, I'm going to duck back into the woods. There's a couple of really tight technical corners, and then I've got to set up wide to get high for an off-camber section, because that will carry speed into the next section of trail. So as much as you don't memorize every single corner, you memorize key sections. So there might be a key section of corners back to back to back that you know you have to nail and grease to carry enough speed down the next section. If you're coming into the open, you know it might be a hard left-hand corner or right-hand corner onto a fire road that if you take a bunch of momentum and speed, it'll make up an extra couple of seconds down the way. So these key areas are what you'll try and focus on and pay attention to, especially on your onboard cameras as you're practicing the stage. When you have your onboard camera, you watch the run. There might be a couple of different sections of trail that you stop and start. So of a whole, say 7-minute run, you might have like 4 or 5 or maybe 10 different sections of trail. When you watch this, you'll try and watch that entire stage, maybe twice, 3, maybe 4 times before you race it again. And not only will you watch the line that you're taking, the lines that are developing, as you re-watch it, you might think, oh, that left-hand corner, that's not gonna be there. So for the race, it worked out sweet for practice, but I better set up high to get out of that sticky little situation so you can carry more speed. At the end of the day, we're looking to get down this trail as fast as possible, in the best time possible, and look at the best lines that we can. It's gonna be an evolving trail. When the riders see it in practice to when they see it on Sunday race day, it's dramatically different. The EWS 100 have been down it, there's been a pro stage down it, there's a lot of different tracks that have been down it, so the trail may have evolved in a different way to how we started. As you see at every round this year, there are so many trails, corners, rocks, routes, jumps, holes, lines. It's impossible to remember them all. So riders will pick out key features. They'll pick out features where You know you have to jump that double jump. You know you have to go the low line. You know you have to get over that one tree root to focus on that next section. These key bits is sections that riders will pick out on their onboard cameras while they're practicing. And you'll notice some riders might push back up just to practice that one line. Make sure it's dialed in. But over the whole course of the practice run, sometimes it might be worth saving your energy and just getting through the section nice and smooth, nice and fast, making key notes on your onboard camera to know that later when you watch that camera back and watch that footage, you know, okay, I need to set up here. Okay, this section, I needed a little bit more high-speed compression. Okay, this section, I would much prefer a mud tire compared to a dry tire. These are all key things that the riders will process afterwards with their mechanics, with their teams, and it's part of their preparation for race day, not only their physical energy, their trail speed, their bike setup. These can all add up to an overall package that results in a fantastic performance come race day. So in a lot of sections on these stages, there'll be a line that is high risk, maybe not so much a great reward. So you've got to really weigh it up, whether it's worth the risk for the reward. It might be a very technical, steep, gnarly section, but it doesn't exactly equate to a fast time. Whereas other sections, you might have to take the lower line, the slightly slower line, but you'll exit with more speed. So as the riders approach these stages in practice, they'll be looking for these risk versus reward scenarios and trying to find out what's the best outcome. Do I really need to send it down this section full tilt when I've got 15 minutes of stage to go? Other bits, when they are short and sharp and gnarly, you've really got to take those risks. When you've only got a 2-minute stage, enduro now is so cutthroat that 1 second, half a second, 100th of a second is a big deal, and it can be the difference between 5th, 10th, 1st, 20th. You've really got to weigh that up. Now, in saying that, one stage that might be 2 minutes long, if you're only 1 or 2 seconds behind on that stage, overall it might place you down the order, but you have to think of the big picture. You're racing for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 50 minutes. Now that one section, yes, you might be able to huck that huge hole, but in the big picture of the whole race, you may destroy your tire, you may break a chain, you may crash, you may hurt yourself. So you've got to think of the big picture, which again comes back to risk versus reward and what's going to get you the fastest overall time for the entire race. So over the years, there's been some fantastic practice. Riders, racers, everyone's got their own technique. Sam Hill is an exceptional example of practicing. He walks the stages, which is a very hot topic, whether people walk the stages or not. He looks at different lines and he can apply those lines unwritten. He's only seen them when he's walking, or he may have looked at them in practice. He's kept a couple of sneaky ones in his pocket. When it comes to race time, crunch time, when you have to pull the trigger, he is one of the best in the game at making it happen on race day. So there you have it, trendsetters. There's a couple of tips for these EWS riders to get through practice. There's many things to consider on a practice day leading into race day. You've got to save energy, you've got to look at trails, and you've got to adapt the best conditions for your riding style. Everyone's different and they've all got some fantastic styles, so we'll see how they go on race day.